We've got some folks new to the responsibility process.
Great. So welcome. I'm Christopher Avery. I'm the CEO and founder of the Responsibility Company, and I am the promoter of the responsibility process. I am not the inventor of the responsibility process, although that's common mythology, is that it's my process. I named it the responsibility process. Before that, it was just called the responsibility chart, or the responsibility flip chart. And it was developed by, I'm the third member of the research team. It's a phenomenological study that started in the 1980s by my mentor, Bill McCarley, and his mentor, Marshall Thurber, excuse me. So anyway, I have spent almost 30 years applying it to leadership and to organizations and teams. And I'm thrilled that you're here. So who's here? We have people from around the world who have responded to our call for doing these free responsibility mentoring webinars. These webinars are a response to the situation that our world is in. And the reason we're responding in this way is a couple of things. Number one, our own anxiety, our own freaking out that our business is at risk, like everybody else's income, every business, every employee, that their money flow is at risk in this time. And then our response to that freak out, which was, wow, there's never been a larger call in the world for us to do our work. The world is in crisis. The world, the smart, educated, ambitious, good people are having deep fear and uncertainty and anxiety. And we know that when that happens, we know that the responsibility process gets triggered, and we know that we go to blame or get stuck in justify or shame or whatever. So these free webinars are an opportunity for us to simply give away our services to those people who could use some new thinking and some breakthroughs to freedom, choice, and power. So I welcome you. What we're going to do here is invite you to pose questions or even share your own stuckness, places where you have worries or problems, or you'd like to feel more emotional freedom, you're feeling trapped in your thinking. And it's my job to gently figure out how to help you move through that. So right now, I'd like you to just check in with yourself, just to invite yourself to get present to this moment, be right here in the now. And if you want to set an intention for this time together, we've scheduled this for 50 minutes, from 5 after the hour to 5 before the hour. I will gladly stay on a little bit longer than that, working with whoever we're working with. But if you want to set an intention for the next hour, what does that look like? Do you have an intention for learning, for peace, for joy, for relaxation, for being totally present during this time? Do you have an intention to support others? You can set any intention you want. You're a powerful being with a powerful ability to set your mind towards anything. If you haven't already done so, type into the chat where you are today, what's your location, and just say hello so that we can start to all be part of the group. I then encourage you to write down one upset. If you have a piece of scrap paper or open a sticky note or a note-taking device or note-taking thing on your device, write down one upset or source of anxiety or uncertainty. And what this looks like, how you operationalize that, is it's usually something that your mind keeps chewing on and thinking about and going over and over and over, and never making any real progress on it. And gosh, it's tiring, and I really wish that I could let this go so that I could move on and feel more free. So write down one of those for yourself. And if you don't have any, whoa, congratulations. But I'm guessing if you don't have any, you might not be here.
Christopher, we do have a question from Paula, and I am having trouble promoting her to be a panelist. So if you could try right-clicking on Paula in the participants list. For some reason, I can't do that. But she's asked a question in the Q&A that I think would be good grounding for folks and an interesting story to hear.
Yep. So I think I can fix your inability to do that by making you a co-host, which I have done. So let's add that to our pre-flight checklist.
All right, there it is. Okay.
So you're
I'm
now
promoting you, Paula.
Oh, interesting green screen effect here.
All kinds of fun.
So while
Paula, if you have ability to start your video, that would be great. If you don't, just let us know.
Okay, I'll try. Okay, we'll see how that works.
Do you have your camera covered up, Paula?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm not used to using my camera.
Hi there.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for doing this. I hadn't heard of this before.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. Are you familiar with the responsibility process?
No.
Okay. Well, tell me what's going on.
I'm just fascinated by the concept, and it completely grabbed my attention. I'm really interested in psychology and how people navigate. I know I work part-time in a psychiatry office, so a psychologist, licensed professional counselor office. So I see a lot of people coming and going, and I hear their stories when they call me on the phone. So yeah, and I like that you said normally calm people are suddenly really, really anxious, that it is the second pandemic. And I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. So I'll give you a real quick orientation, then I'd love to hear if you have a very specific question. So this is the responsibility process. What it says, and it's a very simple stack of words, and to shorten it, the stack of words would be lay, blame, justify, shame, obligation, responsibility. Denial and quit are a little bit more exotic things to explain. So in general, you're well aware then from your work, you're well aware that all human beings have go in and out of different mental states. Mm-hmm. And the mental states can be related to different parts of our brain. And there's wide agreement that we sort of have a lower mind, which is a resistant, defensive, scared, scarcity-oriented mind, fight, flee, fight, or fright. You know those
reptilian.
The three Fs. Yeah, and we have an upper mind that's very creative, very resourceful, very expansive. Has abundance thinking, and it's true for all people. And so the responsibility process is simply a study that started over 30 some years ago that just listened to people explain why they couldn't get or have what they wanted, or why they weren't powerful, or why they were a victim. And over hundreds and thousands of coaching interactions, my mentor and his mentor teased out that every time something goes wrong in our lives, which means every time we have a situation where what we have and what we want are in conflict, right? Then this process gets triggered in our minds, and we enter the process at blame. So our first thought every time something goes wrong is, who did that? Who put that there? Who moved my cheese? Who built it this way? Who's not taking care of me? Who should have acted faster on this crisis? Right? And our world teaches us that we can point fingers. We can actually blame people who are blaming and say that they're dumb or stupid or ignorant. And what our process says is they're not dumb or stupid or ignorant at all. They're simply doing exactly what humans are designed to do when things go wrong. And if we stop blaming, So blame is its own mental state, has very simplistic cause-effect logic, which is they have to change for me to be happy, right?
Oh.
They're the cause of my problem or unhappiness. And we know it's just a mental state, so we can get off of this mental state. And that's what my work and the work of the Responsibility Company is all about, Paula, is helping people understand that it's just a mental state, learn to recognize it in ourselves, and make a new choice about, do I want to stay a victim? Do I want to stay in blame? Or do I want to get off of this mental state and move towards a place where I can be much more creative? So justify is a lot like blame, except we're justifying a set of circumstances, right? Shame is when we stop externalizing, and then the pattern just says, well, then it must be you, you're the dummy. And we think, oh, I did this to myself, I'm so stupid, right? Well, I never learned. Geez, somebody, school me. And so shame is just lay blame on self. And again, it's just a mental state, and we get stuck here. And society reinforces this, religions reinforce this, male-female dynamics reinforce this, parent-child dynamics reinforce this, authority, all one-up relationships reinforce this. And if we decide to stop beating ourselves up, then we land in a mental state called obligation, which is where we feel trapped in some kind of a promise or a commitment or a pattern that we can't change or don't know how to change. So obligation is the mental state of have to, don't want to. So I have to go to this stupid meeting. I have to pay my bills. I have to write the check to the bank for the mortgage. Have to. I have to do honeydews for my spouse. Have to. I'm not in charge of my life. I made some decisions, put some things in place. I thought they were good choices, but now I just go through life doing what I have to do. So the value of this work, Paula, is that we work for the best educated, busiest, smartest, most motivated people in the world. And they live lives mostly in shame and obligation, and don't know how to be truly free. So responsibility is that place in our minds where we realize that there's a space in between stimulus and response. And normally we don't realize there's that space between stimulus and response, and we spend our lives putting in place autopilot rules so that we get triggered stimulus and we react. We don't respond, and we react with the previous program that we created in the past. And that program usually has some kind of judgment, evaluation of good or bad or right or wrong or horrible or whatever. And so what practicing responsibility does is it actually starts to pry open in our minds the space between stimulus and response. And in that space is choice. And in that choice is freedom and power. So there's my overview.
Nicely done.
Yeah. So in the office in which you work, I have a story for that. And then we're going to move along to either, you asking me a question or have an opportunity for someone else to. So here's a story. My mentor, Bill McCarley, offices with his wife of 40 some years, Linda McCarley. She's an amazing therapist here in Austin, Texas. And Bill is not a therapist, but he is a coach and mentor. He's a responsibility master. And I don't know, 20 years ago, he told me a story. He said, people come to my wife and seek traditional therapy. And according to the dynamics or according to the rules of traditional therapy, he said they could spend months unpacking blame and justifying their life, right? Talking about their childhood and all of this other stuff. He said they come to my office and I take blame and justify away from them in the first 20 minutes.
That's really impressive. And does he do that in a personal, like someone's in therapy for their personal situations, or is he applying that to business, or
we all do.
Is that just a...
Yeah. So all of my clients learn when we are coaching other people, what we found is that smart people learn to recognize blame and justify in themselves. They learn to recognize their stories pretty quickly, and they're pretty willing to let go of that. so that's why he said, I take that away from him in the first 20 minutes. It's all you
Okay.
have to do is explain this to smart people and ask them permission to point out if they're blaming or justifying, and doing it in a kind way, right? And when you do that, people will start introspecting, and the next thing you know is they're in shame, they're feeling guilty, they're feeling bad. So now we've moved them up from blame up to shame, right? And it's not that I want them to feel bad, it's that I want them to know why. And I want them to understand the process. So where smart people get stuck in this chart is shame and obligation for the most, and quit. But I don't want to go in deeply into quit now. And I'll invite you to go find any of myriad resources out there that we have to read more about this. There's my book is available, The Responsibility Process, if you're interested, is available on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. But we also have lots of videos and other things about this on our website and all over the internet.
So when you apply this to smart people, and I know that Susan's brought this into her weekly business event, or no, that's on Fridays actually, isn't it, Susan?
First Fridays, it's, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a little different. When you apply this to someone, how they're responding to their business situations like cash flow or coronavirus, whatever, how do you help them work through that? How are you applying it to this particular current event?
Good question. So first of all, Susan just put in chat that this poster is available as a free download. And you can get this at responsibility.com. If it's not obvious, click on resources and it'll be obvious. And the cool thing about this is it's a 2-page PDF and it has the main teaching points on the back. And to answer your question, there are 3 keys to accessing the responsibility process and to unlocking it and to practicing responsibility. So Paula, the way that I apply this to people is I invite them to self-apply. So what we know is the responsibility process only works if self-applied, right? So yeah. For anybody listening to this now or in the future, if you're sitting here going, wow, I now know what's wrong with my spouse and I can't wait to text him and tell him, honey, I know what's wrong with you. You're stuck in justify. What I say to you is don't do it, right? Because labeling somebody is an act of labeling, right? You're saying that there's something wrong with them and you want them to correct to make you happier. So to actually label them is for you to be in labeling. So if you want to actually operate from responsibility in helping somebody else, you ask yourself, how can I help them self-apply this? And that starts with me applying it to myself and taking responsibility for this situation. So the keys are intention, awareness, and confront. So all 3 keys are mental attributes, mental abilities, mental powers that we're all born with. And they're not developed in us generally as children by parents or teachers. They're not developed until we get into personal growth programs or spiritual growth programs or leadership growth or leadership development programs, is when we start learning about the power of awareness, the power of intention, our free will, right? And the power of confront, or the ability to face things, the ability to develop our courage to step into our fears and examine them, step into our anxieties. So the way that we help other people apply them is intention, awareness, confront. Intention, awareness, confront. So around the coronavirus, the conversations I've been having with people around this is, you know, first of all, are you willing to face your fears around this? Are you willing to actually step into your anxiety and tell me about it rather than avoid it or run away from it? So the reason confront is so powerful is that we don't like even the smallest amount of angst. and we usually do everything we can to try and avoid it. And what we know is that that angst is caused by two competing thoughts, two competing cognitions in the mind. And so what we want to do is to actually step into the angst and examine our own minds, look at our own minds, our beliefs, our assumptions, etc., and find what's true there. So then we'd go from confront to maybe intention, right? Do you want to take responsibility for your life? Do you want to get into a place of generativity during this crisis, right? Or do you want to be a victim? And then we go after awareness.
What do you mean getting into a place of generativity? What do you mean by that?
I mean the mental state of responsibility.
Okay. Okay.
So we call the mental state of responsibility the mental state of freedom, choice, and power. It's the mental state of what you would know as self-agency, true self-agency.
So when people are actually trying to say, oh, I can tell someone else about this, or I can, no. How I had it worded earlier. You were talking about someone saying, yeah, my wife needs to do this, or this important person in my life, or this person at work needs to change so that I can feel better. That's actually a disempowering, crippling thing. You can't make progress when you lay blame, or I didn't ever put that together, that you're laying blame on someone else. But yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So that's disempowering to lay blame, justify, shame, quit, and obligation.
Right. So once you understand this, then the thing to do is to develop a practice. So I no longer think of in the materials that are published out there, we differentiate being a good, responsible citizen versus taking 100% responsibility. Right. So being a good, responsible citizen can actually keep you in shame and obligation. In
I can
fact,
see that.
In
Yeah.
fact, shame and obligation are pseudo-responsibility definitions in our society. Hence, we have so many people that were raised to be good students, good kids, good employees, and they're fabulous people who just happen to be miserable in life and at work because they're stuck in shame and obligation. But they're being good. They're seeking approval by society. They're doing all the right things. Right? They're just not mentally free.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in my close circle over the years who have actually told me that the most important thing for them is to be right. Nothing else really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And Susan was just telling me that she saw a thing in the TEDx community right now that that people are experiencing. What did you call it, Susan?
They're paralyzed with the possibility that the action that they will take would be wrong. So the need for being right, I'm super familiar with that one. I had my whole family culture was the who's right. But then there's I'm afraid to make a step because it might be wrong, but we're in a situation of uncertainty. So nobody has the answers right now. I'm in the stuff that I'm looking at, there's a lot of scrambling to look at the data and try to make sense of it, but there's not enough data in many cases. So folks they're hesitant. They called it bystander syndrome.
That's what I wanted you to say, bystander syndrome. And they described it as people who are accustomed to being experts and living in a world of expertise where somebody always has the answers. And this goes dead center to that. And I've been speaking about the fallacy of expertise for most of my career, that you and I have grown up in a wonderful society where whatever problem we have, we're told that somebody's already solved it and all we have to do is go find the answer. But usually what that advice does is puts us into shame or obligation. It doesn't actually free us. So a long way around answer to your question, Paula, is in the mental state of responsibility, there are not right answers. That's the convergence of your intention and your awareness and your confront that pulls on your unique genius and your unique inspiration and your unique ability to create, to come up with your own solution that feels amazing to you. And this is true of all true self-leadership. And it's what we apply to people freeing themselves, to people figuring out how to be better team leaders, better coaches, better organizational leaders. So, you know, the most common question we get is, how do I take responsibility for X, Y, Z? What's the responsible action? And my answer is, I don't know. I don't know what the responsible action is for you. But what I know is that if you apply intention, awareness, and confront, you'll find out what action you might want to take, because it'll be unique for you.
So you've said bystander syndrome, which is completely new concept to me, and the fallacy of expertise. I get that one. How do you see imposter syndrome fitting into this whole thing? Because that is my upset.
Tell me more.
I am in a career transition, and in spite of skills, and actually this week the skills were validated with a perfect score on a final project for my UX writing certification course. I still kind of freak out when I'm around other people who've been in it for a long, long time. And I think of working with them, and I think of maybe, no, I won't know how to coordinate. I won't, you know, I've never been in a corporate or enterprise culture. I've always worked and found my own work and created my own employment, and been remote since the 90s for the most part, able to be remote, working in real estate 24/7, blah, blah, blah. So the idea that I would just be able to walk in and, I don't know, I just, it shuts me down, and it keeps me from actually going out there. I keep waiting until I feel like I'm qualified, and I don't think I'll ever get there.
So your answers are in the answer you gave me, right? So the statement, I don't feel like I'll ever get there, right? That's a commitment. That's a purchase order.
Can you explain that?
Yes. So do you want to be committed to being a UX designer, or do you want to be committed to never getting there?
Okay.
So if you keep telling yourself that you're never going to get there, guess what? Your mind is going to help you do everything in the world to never get there.
Okay. I hear you.
Yeah. So, you know, I think there's lots and lots of different reasons for imposter syndrome. And I'm not an expert on imposter syndrome, but I certainly had it for a lot of years in my life. And a lot of it was related to negative stories I was telling myself about whether or not I deserved it, or whether or not I was prepared enough, or whether or not there was 14 more things that I should really do before I pronounce that I'm doing it, or whether or not I need this certification or that certification. And, you know, there's lots of things that were in my way, and all of them were thoughts, competing thoughts about why I can't have what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, you're right on. Right on.
So that's where I would start with you. I'm not going to try and solve it with you right now, but that's where I would start. I would start with just the awareness of the thoughts that I'm telling myself, right? Affirmations. These are affirmations. They happen to be negative affirmations.
Yeah.
And I keep making them come true.
Okay. Thank you so much for showing me that. I've talked about it with a lot of people, and they just commiserate, say, yeah, I still get that. I'm there with you. And it seems like everybody has this challenge, or maybe they've struggled with it. If they haven't, then that kind of rings my bell and says, be careful. At least in the field that I'm going into, it seems like if anybody's open to their own wrongness and willing to work in that and willing to fail forward, which is built into UX design, you iterate until you know, 10,000 steps to a beautiful website, right? You just keep iterating through failure. And so that is just so antithesis to what the K-12 system and even colleges do, and churches and things like that. It's or parents, they don't let you iterate through failure. They want perfection now. And it's really far more challenging for me to get over this hurdle than I ever anticipated.
And you're getting over it. Say that, and I'm getting over it.
And I am getting over it.
Because I'm willing to face it.
Because I'm willing to face it. Yeah. Because if I don't, I'll just be where I am for so much longer.
That's right. So are you willing to take a piece of homework from me and just experiment with it? So here's my homework. Do you have a reminder app on your computer or your phone or iPad or tablet or anything? Something that'll put up a reminder every 24 hours or something? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have a practice that I do almost every day, and I call it I ams. So I am businessman. I am a writer. I am a responsibility master. I am a friend. I am prosperous. And this is exactly what I was talking to you about. These are purchase orders. These are declarations I'm making that are all true at some level, and I want them to be even more true. So I claim them. So here's my homework for you is create a reminder that you'll see early in the day, every day, and maybe multiple times. It says, I'm a UX designer.
I could do that.
Good. And then your practice is, when you see it, your practice is to look at it and smile just the way you just smiled when I gave you that homework. I don't know if people watching saw it. I don't know if people watching saw it, but your whole energy shifted when you took that in.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. There's nothing more profound in terms of what we have and what we do than who we are and what we feel about our own identity, what we identify with. So I am a UX designer is going to have profound effect on what you do, as opposed to, gosh, I really want to be a UX designer someday. All right, thank you so much. I imagine a whole bunch of people learned a lot from you being willing and having the courage to come on and talk about this, Paula.
Yeah, you know, I decided to just not worry about anything. It's just you and me, and if they happen to be listening, great.
Beautiful.
You know, so many people talk about imposter syndrome that I've learned I'm probably speaking for other people too. So thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing in your work.
Thank you, Paula. Mm-hmm. Bye. All right, Susan.
We are having some interesting chat. I'm going to promote Michael Kaufman.
Hi, Diana.
To come talk to you.
Long time. I see you in the chat.
There's been a lot of +1s for Paula.
Yeah, great work, Paula. Well done. And for everyone watching, I just want you to realize the breakthrough from stuck to freedom can happen that quickly when one of those cognitions in our mind gets shifted. So if you saw Paula brighten just that quickly when I gave her the homework, that's what we get to see all the time in this work. Don't we, Michael?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, Christopher. How are you?
I'm free, powerful, and at choice. Thank you.
Excellent. Love to hear that. I am free, powerful, and at choice, sitting in my lovely abode, self-quarantining. This is definitely a choice to self-quarantine during these times. I believe my exposure risk is actually fairly low. I have no symptoms. I'm feeling fine, but I think it is a choice that I want to make.
Thank you.
So I was thinking in terms of these rough times. I'm a solo entrepreneur, and in talking with a bunch of my other solo entrepreneur friends, in these times, a lot of work has dried up because of the virus, because of a lot of people working from home, and different things like that. And so, just kind of to kind of seed the question, in times of anxiety, you can imagine that there's a lot of people feeling anxiety because of not just the virus and everything going on, but then seeing the impact to their work, seeing the impact to their income, and different things like that. So I thought I would, uh, in the in the theme of the webinar today, I thought I'd throw that out there.
Sure. So this is in the form of some uncertainty that gives you a little angst.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So um, a quick out frame to people watching. So Mike's been a client of mine for many years and a member of our programs, and has been through lots of calls like this with lots of other people, and has experienced Mike's a practitioner of responsibility at very high levels. So with someone who might be more of a newbie, I might draw some more questions, but I know Mike well enough here that I've got some guesses about where I might be able to go for him, and I'm just going to go there, right? So here's my first question, Mike, is, are you in emergency?
No, thankfully not. I have enough savings that I can continue on for a number of months. So I'm not in emergency right now.
Beautiful. So for me, there's actually a set of conditions when we're looking at a problem, a crisis, a panic, anxiety, uncertainty. It's a set of conditions that I apply. And first, they start with, am I alive? And up from there is, am I in emergency, right? In other words, do I have a present time problem that I can't think about anything else because I'm bleeding, I can't pay my rent and I'm about to be kicked out, I don't have food in the cupboards, I'm freezing to death, I don't have heat. So by emergency, I mean that, right? So no, Mike's not an emergency. Cool. So then I apply the condition of danger. Right? So danger means that I have a set of routines that I've put in place, a set of flows that keep me in flow, keep me going. Right? And one of those has altered. Right? And if it's not corrected, then the danger will turn into emergency. So I would
Go ahead.
say that you and I are both in conditions of danger right now. Right? I haven't labeled this in the last week from my team or others, because sometimes danger sounds like a lot worse than it is. It's like, you know, the red sign in the forest for fire danger is high. You know, it doesn't mean there's a fire.
It's a warning.
Doesn't mean there's an emergency, right? Just means that one of our statistics in life is in peril. And so you and I are in the same boat in that way. And so here's what I know to do in danger. So what I know is to reduce all unnecessary spending, right? So conserve in all the areas of our business, our life, whatever that we can conserve, except one. And there's one area where we actually increase our spending of time, energy, money. And that area is called promotion.
I kind of see a lot of that happening right now. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of people in my network that I see, hey guys, join for a 1.5 or 2 hour webinar on how to do remote working. Or parents, are you frustrated with having the kids home all the time? Join our webinar in order to learn coping strategies to deal with your kids. I've seen an amazing explosion of online webinar, free resource, whatever, just in the past week.
Right. Yep. And I have an interview tomorrow with, I'm actually going to increase my budget for team members at a time when our forecasted revenue is dramatically decreasing, and we're going to be in trouble in a few months if we don't do something about it. But I'm actually going to spend money on someone to do marketing coordination and execution during this time. So promotion has a whole bunch of pieces. Let me try and unpack it real quickly for you. And I noticed some chat that this is valuable. So what it means is you want to get the message out to the universe that you are ready to serve, that you're ready to enter into exchange. Starting with yourself, you want to get the message through yourself that you're ready to do that, right? And then out to the universe. And here's what I happen to believe. So my responsibility practice has led me to some deep spiritual beliefs. I happen to believe that if I'm not promoting, I don't get business. And if I am promoting, the business is going to come, but it's not going to come necessarily from the same direction in which I'm promoting. So I may be promoting over here and business comes from over here. But if I'm not promoting, this doesn't come.
Mm-hmm. So you have to be in the act of promotion anyways.
Yep. You want to be putting yourself out there as someone who's valuable, has value to offer, and is willing to serve, willing to transact, willing to get into an exchange relationship. And then the next thing, so that's one whole piece. And then here's how to do that. The how to do that is to establish lines of communication and figure out what's wanted and needed. And then use your unique genius of your own genius and your own inspiration to figure out how you want to supply what's wanted and needed. So this is exactly what the Responsibility Company is doing right now. We're doing exactly this. We're promoting the responsibility process as an amazing response to uncertainty and anxiety. We're giving it away, and we're listening to try and determine what does this market in these times want from us.
That's awesome. So my spontaneity is kicking in, and I'm thinking like my microphone is turned on to, I don't know how many people are on the webinar, and I'm thinking of using this as an opportunity to promote myself to all the current listeners.
Go for it, Mike. Go for it.
Is that okay?
Go for it.
So I'm an Agile coach. I'm a trainer. I do customized training. I'm also a certified relationship coach. So I do systems coaching. Yeah, I'm looking for any kind of work that anybody might be interested in. So contact Christopher or Susan, and Christopher knows how to get a hold of me if you're looking for any kind of help in those areas.
Michael Kaufman in Toronto area, Canada.
Yes, I am.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you for you. All right, Susan, we have 5 more minutes.
Joseph had his hand up, so I invited him to come on screen if he wants to.
Cool. What fun.
Paula wants to network with Michael, so
I see
I
that.
can connect you guys.
So write down, so something I wanted to do earlier while we're waiting is write down as many wins as you can think of right now. A win is an intention met. It's one of our most profound practices. It's the very first practice that we teach as we're teaching people responsibility. A win is an intention met, something I intended to have happen and it did, or something I intended to experience and I did, or something that I intended to not happen and it didn't. And the reason that we do this is that it teaches us how powerful we are in creating our entire reality. We normally are taught by society to focus on losing, on complaining, on what's not going right. We focus on the downside. We focus on being victimized. We focused on our environment not supporting us. And the truth is that we're also creating that. So if we start focusing on where we're winning, that's great. So there's even people here I notice on the call that have a practice of claiming 5 or 10, or for one person, he once told me 25 wins before getting out of bed from yesterday. Right? So what happened yesterday that you intended to happen? My big win so far today is that I intended to serve and support people on this call. And I've gotten to do that with 2 people that I see, and I don't know how many people that I'm not seeing. I also intended to get out of bed this morning. I intended to wake up. I did. That's a win. I intended to button my shirt. That's a win. Okay, Susan, where are we?
We are having some interesting chat. We talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Harold is talking about people who very competent often underestimate their own competence, or they overestimate it.
Right. So where are we in terms of bringing people on or closing this out?
Well, we've got 2 minutes. Why don't we close out
Cool.
and remind people where to find the resources?
Yep. So thanks for posting your wins. I see that you're starting to do that. Before we go, 2 things. Feedback, please. What did you find valuable here today in terms of content, format, overall offer, etc.? What ideas do you have for how we can improve this? Follow and like us all over social media. We are Response Pro, RESPONSPRO. We are Response Pro on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And let your friends know that we will do this again on Wednesday and on Friday. So this was number 4. We'll do number 5 on Wednesday. And we'll do number 6 on Friday. And all they have to do is go to responsibility.com. They scroll down the page, they see news and events, and they'll see a place to sign up for that. So go to responsibility.com/resources to download the responsibility process or get lots of other valuable resources. What did I miss, Susan?
I think you nailed it.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing us to serve you. And you know, these times call for us to demonstrate in order to lead ourselves and others. So please call on us to help you figure out how to get unstuck and get yourself to that mental state of freedom, choice, and power so that you can lead others through this in any crisis.
We're holding 2 more sessions this week on Monday at 10:05, or Wednesday at 10:05, and Friday at 10:05.
Same, and it should be the same webinar link too. You can just share the link. And let's hope it is the same link.
But we'll publicize it in social media if it changes, or our website.
Yep, and that's 10:05 Central. All right.
Yes, Central Time, US. Thank you guys so much.